Wando Energy Resources has declared a 110% jump in profit after tax for the second quarter of the year and is proposing a 70 kobo dividend to its shareholders. Ayodeji Ebo, Head Investment Research at Afrinvest, joins me in the studio for a midday market update and, of course, to unpack these numbers. Thank you so much, Ayodeji.
Thanks
for having me. It's a pleasure to have you. Well, let's start with the latest out of the market. Wando earnings of full year 2013, first quarter of 2014, and second quarter of 2014. And let's start with the full year 2013. Just unpack the numbers for us. What the numbers that jumped out for you?
Yeah, looking at starting the long-expected Wando's results came out very early this morning. The top line, which where you looked at the three results, the full year 2013, Q1 and Q2, have declined year on year by an average of 30%, which also has affected the bottom line. What we're also able to highlight from it is that the finance cost has also been increasing significantly. Based on the 6 month results showed an increase of about over 200% in the finance cost. But we feel going forward, it will, based on the it will reduce in Q3 based on the debt to equity swap that was done.
So subsequent quarters will look better for the company.
Yeah. In addition to that, you know, they paid an interim dividend of 70 kobo.
Well,
in full year, they paid in full year they paid 30 kobo for full year 2013. In addition to the interim 70 kobo. So in terms of dividend yield, which is around 3.6%, which is almost in tandem with the 3.8 average market dividend yield. Investors are excited about it, and based on the last check on trading, is currently was gaining around 9.5%.
Okay, so Wando is on bid because I'm looking at the rest of the market and the all-share index is actually down at the moment. And I was just thinking, wasn't this enough to lift overall market sentiment?
Based on its the weights, you know, the banking, which still constitutes significantly, apart from Dangote, Nigerian breweries, still contributes significantly to the weighting of the Nigerian index. So
I know. I was just thinking, you know, some good news coming into the market because the market has been lackluster in the last couple of weeks. We've seen it, you know, and it's still in the negative territory for the year. That's talking about the year-to-date performance. So, you know, some good news like this, you know, I'm sure traders were hoping that this will lift overall market sentiment.
If you look at what happened to Wando, if you look at what happened to Wando last week, it declined significantly, maybe based on feelers of the expectation of the results.
Okay, you think investors were nervous about what the numbers?
Yes, well, when it was taking too much time on, you know, you've not for the past 9 months, you've not seen what the company has been doing, and maybe based on expectation.
Some anxiety.
So this year, this week, we're also expecting that there should be some form of renewed investment interest, especially for bargain hunters. I mean, look at trading at 23.50 kobo. Present opportunities when you compare it to peers.
All right, I'm looking at the first quarter results and it doesn't look good at all. But of course, looking at the second quarter, over 110% jump in profit after tax. So I suppose investors have ignored the numbers from Q1, which look very bad, you know, deep in the Red Sea. But obviously now focusing on the second quarter results. But going forward, I mean, Wando has acquired the ConocoPhillips assets here in Nigeria, and we're looking to expecting to see the company do big things, you know, going forward. What are investors' expectations in terms of how this will all trickle down to the bottom line, and perhaps maybe going into 2015, the kind of dividend that Wando could put out for shareholders? Yes, they've done over 70 kobo, which is good.
Yeah. Thanks. Apart from the acquisition of ConocoPhillips, you also recall that Wando sold its East Horizon gas assets last year. We made a profit of about 6 billion from that asset last year. That was what reduced their profits for the reduced their loss, about 4 billion loss, to 1.4 billion. But in terms of the dividend that you should expect, we expect that as time goes on, ConocoPhillips should be able to yield improve their top line, and as they try to see how they can reduce their finance cost, which has been reducing its bottom line.
Is that a very big worry for you? Do you think that it could be a problem for them going forward?
It's expected when we saw the frequent increase in debt just to get the ConocoPhillips assets. So for equity holder, they should expect that dividend should decline because you have to, your obligation goes first to your debt holders. You have to pay them before it, and it's not compulsory to pay dividend. But because of the custom, investors' custom
Of
in
course, on the
Nigeria,
Nigerian Stock Exchange, everybody wants dividend.
People want dividend, and they know at least this is a good start, 70 kobo interim, and we expect that by full year, they should be able to do something, even if not above 70 kobo, something around this price.
Okay, but what would you recommend? Hold, buy for 1 day?
I think it's a good long-term buy for that's 9 to 12 months for investors that have the holding period horizon within 12 months. Okay. It's a good buy.
Okay.
Strong
all right.
buy.
Well, that's a verdict. Well, let's just talk about banks. They've been in the spotlight for a while now, of course, and then, of course, the MPC meeting where we heard the central bank governor talk about the banks, and he didn't sound too happy. And, of course, one recalls when he said that he believes that the banks have ample opportunity to lend to the real sector, but they refuse to do that. They still continue to pile all that money in government securities. Some people might say, for obvious reasons, what would they do? So it just looks like they're walking on a tightrope at this point, and we don't know if, you know, we could see further tightening going down. But of course, the CBN governor has assured us that nothing like that will happen until after 2015. So that still creates some uncertainty for the banks.
Yeah, there are two sides to it. You know, for the CBN, the CBN discovered that when we looked at it between 2012 and 2014, the standard deposit facility has increased by over 200%. So it's currently about 411 billion. So for the CBN, interest expense will continue to increase because they are the one paying the interest to the banks. Currently, based on the symmetric plus or minus 200 basis points, interest paid on deposits at the CBN is currently at 10%, which still looks very attractive.
So do you think the CBN will reduce that?
We expect, well, in our outlook this year, we said we expect the CBN to reduce it to 8%, but we wonder why they have not yet reacted to that. So we expect that the CBN should reduce that. However, when you also look at it, the banks are trying to be very careful not to accumulate non-performing loans. You know, there's a benchmark, 5%. If the non-performing grows above 5%, then I think there's what the CBN says you need to sell all the debt. So they need to de-risk.
Does it mean that the banks have found themselves between a rock and a hard place? They want to lend to the real economy, but they're afraid of the non-performing loans. Of course, we know AMCON is there, but of course, the issue of the moral hazard has been brought up that these banks might want to take the existence of AMCON for granted, and of course, they're trying to prove that they're not, or they will not going forward. But yeah, what do they do?
It still exists. What the government needs to come in here needs to de-risk the particular, especially the SMEs space. The infrastructure, they need to get that right. Power needs to be right, so that those that you lend to, they are able to make substantial yield and return on the fund, and they can easily pay back. But if this is not done, I don't see them lending. Well,
interesting times ahead. Interesting times ahead for the banks, definitely. Thank you so much, Ayo. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Thanks for having me.
Well, that was Ayo Deji Ebo, Head of Research at Afrinvest, taking us through the markets, and of course, when the earnings just out at the market.